I was unwrapping my turkey sandwich when I noticed them through the break room window. Two individuals dressed in navy blazers, holding clipboards, were standing just outside my cubicle. My heart did not race. It simply understood that, all right, Sarah Miller Coty had finally succeeded. The compliance officers were rummaging through my workspace as if they owned the place. One was taking pictures of my computer screen, while the other was opening my desk drawers wearing latex gloves as though I was a biohazard. I observed them for about 30 seconds before approaching them. Find anything noteworthy? I asked, keeping my tone calm. The taller officer looked up from my filing cabinet and said, "Mr. Henderson, we are conducting a routine inspection due to reports of workplace violations." Routine, huh? I thought, fully aware of which reports they meant and who had submitted them. Olivia White was hovering just 3 cubicles away, pretending to organize papers while watching everything unfold. She had been preparing for this moment for months. I inquired, "What sort of violations?" The shorter officer read without making eye contact. "Unprofessional behavior, repeated mistakes in client correspondence, and possible safety risks related to workspace order. We need to finish this inspection before you can return to your desk." Before I continue with what happened next, please take a moment to share in the comments where you are watching from, because I want to see how far this story reaches. Also, be sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to click the notification bell because what I am about to reveal completely transformed my understanding of workplace relationships. My name is Olivia White, and I have been employed at a large insurance company for 4 years. I manage accounts with significant value, which means any mistakes on my part can result in substantial financial loss. Sarah Miller joined the company 6 months after me, and from the very beginning, she made it obvious she believed my role should be hers. Sarah always needed to be the sharpest person in every situation. She would interrupt my client calls to explain points I had already covered thoroughly. She CC'd our supervisor on emails to point out grammatical errors that were not actually there. Sarah often volunteered to take over my assignments and then propose changes that made little sense. However, what truly irritated her was my reserved attitude about my achievements. When I secured a key client, I never boasted about it during team meetings. If customers sent thank you messages, I did not share them with everyone in the office. I simply did my job and went home quietly. This drove Sarah mad because she could not compete against something invisible to her. Consequently, she began observing me closely. Sarah noted the time I came in, the duration of my breaks, and the length of my lunch hours. She would casually walk by my desk to see what I was doing and ask seemingly harmless questions about my work methods, later hinting that I might be making mistakes. I understood early on that Sarah was not merely competitive. She was preparing to challenge me. She needed me to fail so that she could succeed, and that was the moment I chose to give her exactly what she wanted. I began making small errors, nothing serious, just minor inconsistencies that someone obsessively watching my work would notice. For example, I would send an email marked Thursday when I actually meant Friday, then realize the mistake about an hour later and send a correction. I filed documents in the wrong folder initially, only to relocate them the next day. I occasionally mixed up affect with effect in internal memos and corrected it during proofreading. These were not genuine mistakes but deliberate hints, and interventions Sarah Miller consumed every single one enthusiastically. Sarah even started collecting evidence, keeping a folder I discovered because she left it open on her computer screen when she went to the bathroom, and I happened to walk by. The folder was titled Olivia White Performance Documentation. Inside were printed emails, screenshots of my screen, and handwritten notes tracking my so-called incompetence patterns. While Sarah Gaz was assembling her little case against me, I was focused on something entirely different, something meaningful for when the crucial moment arrived. I began keeping a gratitude journal, not for any official reason, but as a personal habit. I first heard about this practice on a productivity podcast. Every evening before leaving work, I would jot down 3 positive moments from my day: a client expressing gratitude for resolving their issue, a colleague who assisted me with a tough calculation, or a supervisor praising my presentation. It was simply about acknowledging genuine small joys amid the chaos. Interactions that made my work feel truly rewarding. I kept this journal right in my desk drawer, alongside my daily work materials. It was nothing secret or hidden, just a modest leather notebook where I noted moments of sincere professional appreciation. The entries were genuine and detailed. David Chen. From accounting, stayed late several times to help me navigate the new billing system. His patience turned a frustrating day into a much more bearable one. A client. Mrs. Harrison called simply to express how grateful she was for my follow-up on her claim. It is these moments that remind me why I'm passionate about my job. Brenda. Brought coffee for the entire team during our budget meeting. Small acts like hers help create a sense of community in our workplace. Month after month, I filled page after page with these reflections. Every individual who showed kindness, expertise, or dedication received a mention. Every positive exchange, regardless of how minor, was recorded with a date and a brief note on what made it special. What I did not understand then was that I was unintentionally compiling a record of workplace relationships. As the entries grew, a distinct pattern appeared that had gone unnoticed before. Some individuals seemed to be present again and again. David Chen. From accounting appeared dozens of times thanks to his helpful advice and cooperative nature. Brenda. From human resources was often mentioned due to her considerate gestures and valuable professional support. Even our strict supervisor, Mr. Johnson, showed up regularly to provide clear guidance and constructive feedback. The entire team received fair treatment except for one person who never appeared even once during 18 months of gratitude journaling. After sifting through hundreds of entries, highlighting positive workplace moments, Sarah Miller Chatler had not done a single thing worthy of recognition. No helpful actions, no professional courtesy, not a single instance of sincere teamwork or kindness. I had not intended to leave her out deliberately, but as I examined my journal, the reality was glaringly clear. Sarah had never added anything positive to anyone's work life. She was like a void in our office, draining energy and attention, without offering any warmth or brightness in return. Half a year after I began the journal, Sarah decided to act. It happened on a Tuesday morning when she scheduled a meeting with our supervisor and the compliance department. She brought along a meticulously prepared folder detailing my supposed performance problems and formally requested an investigation into my work quality and professionalism. Olivia White stated, David Chen has shown a series of mistakes and unprofessional conduct that threaten our client relations. Sarah Moore explained, I have been keeping track of these problems because I care deeply about our team's reputation and the standards of our company. Mr. Johnson listened carefully to her presentation, examined her documentation, and approved a compliance review, although standard procedure required that I be informed. Sarah specifically asked for the inspection to proceed discreetly. While I was having lunch, I did not have the chance to prepare my workspace or conceal any signs of wrongdoing. That is how I found myself watching 2 compliance inspectors rummage through my possessions as I stood there holding half a turkey sandwich, fully aware that everything was about to shift dramatically. The inspectors were meticulous. They captured photographs of my computer screen, which displayed a flawlessly arranged client management system. They inspected my filing cabinet, filled with carefully tagged folders arranged in alphabetical order. Then they went through my email exchanges, which clearly showed professional communication with both colleagues and external partners. Afterward, the shorter inspector opened a drawer in my desk and asked, "What is this?" Pulling out my gratitude journal. "Just some personal notes about work," I explained. He silently flipped through several pages, reading intently. Then he exchanged a glance with his partner, signaling something I could not perceive. Their eyes held a wordless dialogue. The taller officer, Mr. Henderson, said, Would you mind if we examined this notebook more closely? It seems to include workplace observations that could be important for our inquiry. I replied, Absolutely. Take as much time as you need. What followed is etched in my memory forever. The officers sat at my desk and started to read my journal from the very start. They did not skim quickly. Instead, they carefully absorbed every single entry. Sometimes they pointed at certain passages and whispered quietly to one another. 5 minutes passed, then 10, then 15, and more people entered the room. The office began to take notice of the sudden shift in activity. Conversations grew softer as coworkers realized something important was unfolding at my workspace. Sarah leaned in, eager to catch a glimpse of what the officers were reading that so completely absorbed their attention. After about 20 minutes, the shorter officer looked up at me with a look I could not quite interpret. Ms. White, he said carefully, how long have you been keeping this journal? I answered, about 18 months. And these entries are all real. You are not exaggerating or making up positive interactions for any reason. His question caught me off guard. No, definitely not. These are just sincere moments of gratitude I record because focusing on good experiences makes my job more enjoyable. The officers exchanged glances again. Then the taller one got up and walked over to where our Sarah Kwan was pretending to sort papers. Miller, he addressed her, could we have a private word with you for a moment? I watched the change in Sarah's face as she understood this was not going according to her plan. The officers were not arresting me or seizing my computer. Instead, they were requesting to speak with her. The three of them disappeared into the small conference room at the far end of our floor. Through the glass walls, I could see them talking, but I could not make out their words. Sarah's wet expression was unreadable. Their expressions shifted from certainty to confusion, then to something resembling panic. They had been inside for almost 30 minutes when they finally appeared. Sarah looked as though she had been crying. The officers returned to my desk where I had been quietly replying to emails and attempting to make sense of the situation. The shorter officer named Mr. Green said, after reviewing the evidence provided and conducting our own examination of your workspace and records, we are closing this investigation without any findings of wrongdoing or policy breaches. A wave of relief washed over me, but I sensed there was more to come. Then the taller officer, Mr. Henderson, added, however, we want to address some concerns that arose during our review. He opened my gratitude journal to a page near the middle and showed it to me. Over 18 months of recording positive workplace experiences, I had mentioned 63 different individuals by name. Colleagues, supervisors, clients, vendors, security personnel, cleaning staff, 63 people who had made my work life better in some way. I nodded, unsure of the direction this was taking. Ms. Miller's name appears 0 times in your journal, he said, the words hanging heavily between us. I glanced down at my journal, then back at the officers, and then toward the conference room where Sarah was still sitting by herself. That was not intentional, I said softly. I simply write about moments of sincere appreciation. If someone is not in my journal, it is not because I intended to exclude them. I couldn't finish the sentence because saying it aloud would make it real, and I was uncertain if I wanted to take on that responsibility. After all, they never did anything worthy of praise. The taller officer stepped forward and said, "We understand, and we believe M's. Miller understands now as well." They closed my journal and returned it to me. Ironically, the taller officer commented that she was so absorbed in noting your errors that she failed to recognize how her own behavior appeared to others. Your journal unintentionally created a detailed record of workplace relationships that exposes office dynamics more clearly than any evaluation ever could. They gathered their belongings and readied themselves to depart. As they walked away, I caught one saying to the other, 18 months without a single positive remark.
Can you imagine being that consistently negative? They moved too far away for me to hear more.
I remained at my desk clutching my gratitude journal, trying to process what had just occurred around me. The usual office noises returned, the tapping of keyboards, ringing phones, soft talks about project deadlines and weekend plans, but everything felt altered. The compliance investigation meant to ruin my career instead exposed something far more damaging about the one who had orchestrated it. Sarah Miller had spent months detailing my minor, irrelevant faults, all while being utterly oblivious to the poisonous effect she had on the workplace.
Everyone around Sarah Miller had seen how intensely she tried to prove I did not belong there. She was so caught up in that mission that she never stopped to think if she actually fit in herself. After that, it was clear to everyone that I did not want to acknowledge Sarah for the rest of the day. She vanished from the conference room at some point while I was dealing with client calls, and her cubicle remained empty until the end of the workday. I assumed she had left early perhaps to process what happened, or simply to avoid the sidelong glances from colleagues who had witnessed the entire incident. The following morning, Sarah was back but noticeably changed. She appeared promptly at 9 o'clock, greeted those who said hello with a quiet good morning, and settled in at her computer without her usual display of frantic busyness. There was no exaggerated stress about her workload, no loud phone calls intended to showcase her expertise, and no wandering around the office offering unwanted advice on other people's tasks. Instead, she worked quietly alongside everyone else. I thought maybe the compliance review had made her see things differently, that perhaps she understood how her actions appeared to others and chose to adjust her behavior. I hoped this ordeal might end on a positive note, teaching us all something valuable about communication in the workplace and helping us move ahead professionally. I was so naive. The real story began to unravel 3 days later when David Chen from accounting stopped by my desk on his afternoon coffee break. "Hey, Olivia," he said, maintaining his usual casual tone. My voice dropped low as I asked, "Can I ask you something a bit strange?" "Sure," I replied, saving the client report I was working on. "Did you know Sarah O has been asking people about your journal?" My heart pounded faster. "What do you mean?" "She cornered me yesterday in the break room and started questioning if I knew you were writing about colleagues, whether I thought that was professional, and if I felt comfortable having my personal interactions recorded without my permission." A cold feeling settled in my chest. "What did you tell her?" I answered honestly. I said I think it's nice when someone notices acts of kindness or helpfulness. "But," Olivia added, "Sarah is not just asking me, she's talking to everyone. Brenda, Mr. Johnson, even people from other departments." David Chen glanced around to make sure no one was eavesdropping, then leaned in closer. "She's trying to make your journal look creepy, like you're spying on people or creating some kind of surveillance file. She's telling others that keeping track of workplace interactions without permission could be seen as a privacy breach or harassment." The realization hit me hard. Sarah wasn't learning from what happened. Instead, she was doubling down. She couldn't handle that the compliance investigation had exposed her own toxicity, so she was twisting my gratitude journal into something sinister. "Has anyone believed what she's saying?" I asked. David shook his head. "Not really. Most people think she's exaggerating, but—"
Olivia is persistent and skilled at sowing doubt. You understand her approach perfectly. I knew that this was exactly our Sarah Miller's Camouars method. Whenever direct confrontation did not succeed, she resorted to subtle manipulation. She transformed my moment of triumph into a fresh weapon against me.
That afternoon, I chose to test on David Chen's on caution and observed carefully how individuals interacted with me. Were conversations more brief than before? Did anyone appear uneasy or guarded at first? Everything appeared ordinary. Yet by the end of the week, I started to notice minor changes.
Brenda, from Human Resources, who typically stopped by my desk for casual talks, suddenly seemed preoccupied whenever I neared her workspace. Mr. Johnson's replies to my emails turned more formal and distant. Even the security guard who normally greeted me each morning with a smile simply nodded politely without his usual warmth. Sarah was quietly undermining my relationships one exchange at a time. I realized I faced two options. I could address this head on, walk into like Mr. Johnson's or an office, and reveal what Sarah's was up to, but doing so would make me seem defensive and suspicious, confirming her story that I was overly fixated on workplace dynamics and personal connections, or I could take a completely different route.
I chose to give Ori, Sarah Gary's, precisely what she desired, but not in the manner she anticipated. On the following Monday morning, I dispatched an email to my entire department with the subject line Personal Journal. Transparency and consent were the core of the message. Hello, everyone. Some of you might already know that I maintain a private gratitude journal where I occasionally jot down uplifting workplace experiences. I want to be fully open about this habit and make sure that everyone feels at ease with it. The journal is entirely for my own benefit, helping me concentrate on the positive aspects of my workday. It has never been shared with any supervisors or utilized for professional reasons. Still, I realize that some individuals could feel uneasy knowing their kindness or professionalism appears in someone else's private notes. If you would rather not have any interactions with you recorded in my journal, please tell me. I will fully honor that choice, and it will not impact our professional relationship. I appreciate every one of you as coworkers and want all of us to feel comfortable with our work connections. Warm regards, Olivia. After I sent the email, I waited, and soon my inbox began receiving replies, but not the ones I had anticipated. Brenda was the first to answer. Olivia. I had no idea you kept a journal about positive moments at work, but it sounds amazing. Please keep including me. It's heartwarming to learn that small acts have such significance to others. Then, David Chen responded, Keep writing. If more people focused on gratitude rather than complaints, our workplace would definitely be a much nicer environment. Mr. Johnson sent a lengthier message saying, Olivia, your practicing gratitude appears to be a fantastic approach to sustaining a positive outlook in a challenging work setting. I value your honesty and professionalism in addressing this issue straightforwardly. One by one, my coworkers responded with support, interest, and encouragement. Many inquired if I could share advice on how to start their own gratitude routines. Others recounted experiences of how small gestures of kindness at work had influenced their careers. By the end of the day, I received 37 replies. 36 of them were optimistic, supportive, and appreciative to be part of my journal. Only one individual did not reply at all. Sarah Miller's. Silence was profoundly noticeable while everyone else celebrated the concept of gratitude and mutual respect at work. She could not bring herself to participate in the discussion, because doing so would mean admitting she had been mistaken about my journal, mistaken about my intentions, and mistaken about how our coworkers would respond. Yet, the most heartbreaking part was still ahead. During the next week, something remarkable began unfolding in our office. People started expressing gratitude more openly. Brenda began leaving thank you notes on desks when colleagues assisted her with projects. David Chen brought treats to share with the team, along with a message about how much he valued working alongside everyone. Mrs. Harrison started opening team meetings by recognizing someone who had gone the extra mile that week. The practice of gratitude was becoming. The spirit of appreciation was spreading, shaping exactly the kind of positive work environment everyone desired to belong to. Everyone except one down, Sarah Miller. In a setting where people actively sought reasons to recognize each other, Sarah's encouraging conduct became impossible to overlook. While everyone else openly expressed sincere gratitude for teamwork and assistance, her continual criticism and competitive undercutting stood out like an alarm. I observed her attempt to adjust. She began saying thank you more frequently, but it sounded insincere and empty. She tried offering compliments, yet they came off as disguised complaints that left others feeling worse than before. Even her efforts to start a gratitude journal focused mainly on her own achievements rather than valuing others. The difference was sharp and uncomfortable. While the rest of us were encouraging each other, Sarah remained fixated on diminishing people. Now that everyone viewed workplace relations through a lens of appreciation, her negativity became impossible to ignore. 3 weeks after my email about transparency, Mr. Johnson summoned me to his office. "Olivia," he said, "I want to thank you for bringing this gratitude practice to our team. The change in morale has been extraordinary." I responded that I was pleased to hear of the positive effects. Yet he went on, "This new emphasis on workplace connections has also revealed some troubling patterns with one of our colleagues." He did not elaborate further at that moment. I need to explain that I have been observing interactions more closely since receiving your email and noticed that while most people are embracing a culture of mutual appreciation, there is one individual who seems either unwilling or unable to engage in positive team dynamics. Mr. Johnson opened a folder on his desk and said he had been reviewing the complaints and concerns raised over the past 6 months. On their own, these seemed like minor personality clashes or communication problems, but viewed together through the lens of workplace relationships, a worrying pattern emerged. He showed me a list of incidents, all involving Chakat Sarah Miller, causing conflict, undermining coworkers, or disrupting teamwork. The compliance investigation was the breaking point. Mr. Johnson explained, "Using company resources to pursue a personal grudge against a colleague is unacceptable, but what troubles me most is how systematic these behaviors have been." He closed the folder and looked at me directly. "Olivia White, I want you to understand that your gratitude practice has not only improved our team culture, but also provided us with a framework to recognize what healthy workplace relationships look like. Once we could identify positive examples, the negative behaviors became impossible to ignore." I sat quietly, taking in everything he was saying. "Sarah has been transferred to a different department," he continued, "one where her contributions can be appreciated without the situation called for thorough teamwork. It was not a demotion, although it could be seen that way. Instead, it was an acknowledgement that she was not a good fit for our cooperative setting. I experienced a peculiar blend of relief and sorrow. Relief that the toxic atmosphere was finally being dealt with, and sorrow that it had reached this point. The irony Mr. Johnson mentioned was that Sarah Miller's own investigation into your work excellence led us to realize you are among our most cherished team members. The gratitude journal she attempted to use against you actually revealed how highly regarded and valued you are by everyone in this company." He was correct. My simple habit of noting positive experiences had turned into a reflection showing the true character of everyone at work. Through that reflection, Sarah was forced to confront the person she had become. 2 months afterward, I overheard office chatter that Sarah had asked for a reassignment to the company's branch in a different state. They said she wanted a fresh beginning, among new coworkers who were unaware of her past. I sincerely wished her well because I now understood her actions were never really about me. They stemmed from her own self-doubt and inability to appreciate others' achievements. My gratitude habit had only made that reality undeniable. The payback I received was unlike the vendettas seen in movies. I did not ruin her career nor embarrass her openly. Instead, I created a mirror so truthful and clear that she could no longer bear to face herself. No longer reflecting on it, and in her attempt to undermine me, she unintentionally exposed her true nature. My gratitude journal remains on my desk. Every evening before leaving, I still write in it. However, its purpose has shifted from when I first began. It is no longer solely about my personal positivity. It now stands as a symbol that how we treat others is important, that kindness leaves marks, and that genuine authenticity ultimately triumphs. Sometimes the most powerful revenge is not about making someone suffer for their actions, but about building an environment where such behavior cannot persist. If this story struck a chord with you, if you have ever encountered a toxic coworker or found yourself doubting your value because of someone else's insecurity, please share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us about your experiences with workplace relationships, gratitude habits, or moments when the truth emerged in surprising ways. And if you want to listen to more stories about handling challenging people and discovering real methods to safeguard your peace, please like this video and subscribe. Your encouragement means the world to me, and knowing that these stories help others feel less isolated in their struggles makes every tough experience worthwhile to share.